The unsettling footage flickered across the screen, an immediate and visceral jolt straight to the viewer's core. A visibly pregnant woman stood, her hand resting protectively on her swelling abdomen, her face etched with a mix of confusion and mounting distress. Directly in front of her, a magnificent German shepherd, its powerful frame usually a picture of stoic professionalism, was now a whirlwind of agitated energy. It barked, a deep, guttural sound that resonated with an almost desperate urgency, its muzzle repeatedly nudging and then snapping towards the woman's stomach. The barking was incessant, a relentless barrage of noise that seemed to defy reason, creating an almost unbearable tension in the air. This wasn't a playful bark, nor an aggressive one aimed at an external threat. No, this was something far more primal, a warning, a plea perhaps, directed solely at the life growing within her. The woman, clearly uncomfortable, shifted her weight, trying to soothe the agitated animal, yet its focus remained unwavering, its powerful barks cutting through the silence of the room. Meet Sarah, a dedicated and kind-hearted police officer serving in a small, close-knit American town. Her presence was a comforting constant in the community she protected, her diligent work ethic admired by all. At 7 months pregnant, her radiant glow was unmistakable, a testament to the new life she carried. The townspeople knew Sarah not just as an officer, but as a friendly face, always ready with a warm smile and a reassuring word. Her colleagues at the precinct regarded her as family, and her bond with her K-9 partner was legendary. That partner was Buster, a highly trained German shepherd, whose reputation for calm professionalism preceded him. Buster was the epitome of a police dog, intelligent, obedient, and fiercely loyal. His usual demeanor was one of quiet confidence, his movements precise, his reactions measured. He had served alongside Sarah for years, their partnership seamless, their understanding almost telepathic. But recently, something had shifted dramatically. Buster, the rock-solid foundation of their K-9 unit, was exhibiting behavior completely out of character. This usually composed animal was now a bundle of nerves and anxiety whenever Sarah was around, his focus unsettlingly fixated on her burgeoning belly. His barks, once reserved for apprehending suspects or signaling danger, were now directed at Sarah's stomach, an unusual, almost aggressive display that left everyone bewildered. The initial reactions from Sarah and her colleagues were a mixture of surprise and genuine concern. They observed Buster's strange new fixation with growing apprehension. Was it a protective instinct, heightened by Sarah's vulnerable state? Animals were known to be more sensitive to pregnancy. Or perhaps it was simply a change in her scent, a hormonal shift that Buster, with his extraordinary olfactory senses, was reacting to in an overly dramatic fashion. Everyone offered their theories, attempting to rationalize the irrational. They tried to distract Buster, to redirect his attention, but his singular focus on Sarah's stomach remained unwavering, a baffling mystery unfolding before their very eyes. The usually predictable routine of the precinct was now punctuated by Buster's unsettling barks, a constant reminder of the unexplained anomaly. Sarah herself felt a knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach, an instinctual unease that she struggled to shake off. This wasn't the Buster she knew, and his strange behavior was beginning to cast a long shadow over her otherwise joyous pregnancy. Before we delve deeper into this perplexing mystery and uncover the truth behind Buster's extraordinary actions, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Join our community for more compelling true stories, unsolved mysteries, and incredible tales of heroism that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. You won't want to miss what happens next. Buster's incessant barking, initially a perplexing anomaly, quickly escalated into a daily, grinding reality at the precinct. It wasn't just a sporadic outburst anymore. It was a rhythmic, almost ritualistic declaration directed squarely at Sarah's growing belly. The once calm, professional demeanor Buster displayed during training or patrol vanished the moment Sarah entered the room, replaced by a frenzied intensity that was both unsettling and deeply concerning. The sound gnawed at Sarah's peace of mind, echoing in the quiet moments of her shift and even infiltrating her dreams. Her colleagues, initially amused or simply bewildered, soon began to share her concern. The constant commotion disrupted the placid rhythm of the station, casting a pall over what was usually a vibrant, supportive environment. Whispers turned into overt suggestions. "Sarah, maybe you should see your doctor again," Officer Miller offered gently one morning, watching Buster pace agitatedly by Sarah's desk, his nose pointed unerringly at her midsection. It's not normal, even for a K9. Sarah had indeed followed their advice, visiting her obstetrician multiple times. Each checkup, however, yielded the same reassuring results. The baby was thriving, her health was excellent, and there were no complications whatsoever. The doctors, when told about Buster's behavior, typically dismissed it with a chuckle or a knowing nod, attributing it to an animal's heightened senses reacting to the surge of pregnancy hormones, a common enough phenomenon. They assured her there was absolutely nothing to worry about. Despite the medical reassurances, Sarah found herself increasingly isolated by Buster's relentless fixation. The calm confidence she once felt about her pregnancy began to erode, replaced by a creeping unease. She loved Buster like her own child, a loyal partner who had always been her shadow, her protector. Yet, this new, aggressive version of him felt like a betrayal, a constant harbinger of some unknown threat. She yearned for his familiar nuzzles and peaceful presence, but those were now rare commodities. Every bark, every frantic whine chipped away at her emotional resilience, making her question what he saw, what he knew that she and her doctors didn't. There was an underlying urgency in his actions, almost a desperation, that resonated deeply within her, a primal fear awakening despite all logic. Determined to bridge the growing chasm between them, Sarah made a concerted effort to spend more time with Buster off duty. She took him to the park, engaging in his favorite games, hoping that a return to their familiar routines would calm his agitated spirit. She'd sit with him in her backyard, gently stroking his head, murmuring reassurances, trying to communicate through touch and quiet words. But even in those moments of attempted solace, Buster remained fixated. His large, intelligent eyes rarely left her stomach. He would nudge her with his wet nose, then, if she moved to dismiss him, let out a deep, resonating bark, growing more desperate with each utterance. It wasn't an attack. It was a plea, a guttural cry that seemed to beg her to understand. He wasn't just reacting to hormones, Sarah was increasingly sure. He was trying to tell her something vital, something critical, and she felt a chilling inability to comprehend his silent language, a failure that gnawed at her soul. The once unwavering bond between them now felt strained, redefined by Buster's persistent, perplexing alarm. Buster's fixation on Sarah's burgeoning belly wasn't just a vocal protest. It began to manifest physically, becoming an almost desperate plea. He started pawing at her stomach with a gentle yet insistent pressure, nudging and whining with an intensity that pulled at Sarah's heartstrings. When she tried to stand or move away, Buster would plant his large body in front of her, emitting low, mournful whimpers, his eyes wide with an almost human-like distress. It was as if he was trying to physically shield something, or perhaps physically reveal something. This escalation from persistent barking to physical intervention unnerved Sarah more than anything before. It was no longer just an annoying habit. It felt profoundly significant. One crisp afternoon, during a routine patrol that should have been uneventful, the true depth of Buster's frantic warnings became terrifyingly clear. They were driving slowly through a quiet residential area, the radio crackling softly with idle chatter, when Buster, usually content in the back seat, suddenly erupted. He began to bark with a ferocity Sarah had never witnessed, not even during intense training scenarios. He whined, scratched at the divider, and then, with a powerful lunge, managed to get his muzzle through a small gap, snapping agitatedly in the direction of a narrow, seemingly empty alley they were passing. Sarah, startled by the sheer force of his desperation, instinctively pulled the cruiser over. "What is it, boy? What do you see?" she asked, her voice laced with growing apprehension. He didn't calm down. Instead, he pulled with all his might towards the alley, his powerful leaps almost dislodging his carefully secured leash. Feeling an inexplicable pull to trust her partner, despite seeing nothing amiss, Sarah unfastened him. Buster immediately dragged her towards the shadowed opening, his tail tucked low, ears pinned back, classic signs of extreme distress. Just as they reached the mouth of the alley, a sharp, searing pain tore through Sarah's lower abdomen. It was a sudden, violent spasm that stole her breath and buckled her knees. She gasped, clutching her stomach, the world momentarily blurring around the edges. Buster, sensing her agony, immediately stopped his frantic pulling. He whined pitifully, nudging her hand with his wet nose, then started barking again, this time a series of short, sharp yelps directed back towards the car, towards help. Other officers, hearing the commotion over the radio and noticing the sudden stop of Sarah's vehicle, arrived within moments. They found Sarah doubled over, pale and sweating, Buster standing guard, his barks echoing off the brick walls. Sarah was rushed to the nearest hospital, the siren wailing a terrifying counterpoint to her internal fear. The doctors conducted a battery of tests, their faces grave but ultimately puzzled. They found no immediate cause for the excruciating pain. Her baby's heartbeat was strong and steady, and all vital signs for both mother and child appeared perfectly normal. They advised caution, prescribed rest, and suggested it might have been a particularly severe round ligament pain, common in advanced pregnancy. But Sarah knew, deep in her gut, that this was different. Outside her hospital room, Buster remained inconsolable. Officer Miller, who had brought him, reported that the dog refused to leave the immediate vicinity of Sarah's door. He sat guard, occasionally letting out soft, mournful whimpers, his eyes fixed on the closed door, as if waiting for permission to protect her from whatever unseen threat he perceived. Lying in the sterile hospital bed, the lingering phantom pain a dull ache in her abdomen, Sarah finally allowed herself to truly question everything. Was Buster merely reacting to her pregnancy hormones, or was he trying to tell her something far more profound? The doctors dismissed his behavior as animal instinct, but that searing pain in the alley immediately following Buster's desperate alert felt too coincidental. A cold dread seeped into her bones. Could there be an underlying, undiagnosed issue that human medicine was missing, but which Buster, with his heightened senses, could detect? The thought, once dismissed as irrational, now felt like a chilling, undeniable truth beginning to surface. The chilling thought of an undiagnosed issue, something beyond human detection, gnawed at Sarah. Her medical charts, pristine and reassuring, offered no comfort against the persistent, almost desperate image of Buster's frantic barks. It was Officer Jensen, another K-9 handler from a neighboring county, who inadvertently offered a new perspective during a casual precinct gathering a few days later. He listened intently to Sarah's account, his usual jovial demeanor replaced by a thoughtful frown. Jensen recounted hushed tales, almost urban legends among K-9 handlers, of dogs sensing subtle physiological anomalies in their human partners, things that eluded even sophisticated medical equipment. He spoke of a German shepherd who had repeatedly nudged its handler's neck, leading to the early diagnosis of a rare thyroid cancer, or a Labrador who constantly pawed at a woman's abdomen, revealing a nascent ovarian cyst. These were rare, he emphasized, almost dismissed as coincidences, but he believed animals, especially highly attuned K-9s, possessed a primal sensitivity that we, as humans, had largely lost. Driven by this flicker of hope and a growing knot of unease in her stomach, Sarah immersed herself in research. When off duty, her evenings were spent poring over medical journals and obscure online forums, searching for any anecdotal evidence of animals detecting unusual medical conditions in pregnant women. She delved into fringe science and ancient practices, desperately seeking a pattern, a connection. She found scattered, fragmented stories. A cat incessantly kneading its owner's breast before a lump was found. Dogs barking wildly at houses where carbon monoxide leaks were later discovered. More pertinently, she unearthed a handful of accounts detailing how animals had reacted uniquely to subtle changes in a pregnant woman's scent, or subtle electrical impulses within the body, hinting at very early stages of complications like preeclampsia or even internal bleeding that was not yet symptomatic. The medical community largely dismissed these as superstition, but for Sarah, each story felt like a validation of Buster's inexplicable behavior. Buster, meanwhile, remained relentless in his mission. He somehow managed to circumvent the new precautions taken to keep him separated from Sarah when she was off duty. He would appear at her apartment door, having slipped past her patrol partner, or be waiting patiently by her car in the morning, his eyes burning with an almost human intensity. His nudges and barks were no longer just a daily nuisance. They were a constant, desperate plea. He seemed to understand Sarah's growing skepticism from her colleagues, her quiet desperation, and he redoubled his efforts. At night, when Sarah tried to escape into the oblivion of sleep, Buster's low, persistent whimpers from outside her bedroom door would penetrate her dreams, an incessant reminder of the unspoken urgency he carried. One particularly restless night, after another exhaustive day of fruitless research and Buster's relentless pestering, Sarah finally succumbed to sleep. But even then, there was no peace. Her dream was vivid, terrifyingly real. She saw Buster, not as her loyal K-9 partner, but as a mythical guardian. He was pawing frantically at her abdomen, his barks echoing in a dark, empty void. But this time he wasn't just barking. He was desperately trying to pull something out from inside her. She felt an excruciating pressure, a sensation of something being torn, extracted. She woke with a gasp, drenched in sweat, her heart hammering against her ribs. The dream left her deeply disturbed, but also with an undeniable chilling clarity. It wasn't just fear now. It was a profound conviction. Buster wasn't just anxious or protective. He was seeing something, sensing something deeply wrong, something potentially deadly, hidden within her body. And he was trying, with every fiber of his being, to save her. The unsettling incident at the alley, coupled with the frustrating lack of medical explanation, set Sarah on a path of increasing worry. Her colleagues, observing her growing preoccupation with Buster's behavior and her palpable anxiety following the hospital visit, started to express concern. They approached her gently, suggesting that the stresses of her advanced pregnancy, combined with the demanding nature of police work, might be causing her to overthink Buster's actions. "He's just being protective, Sarah," Officer Miller had said kindly, trying to reassure her over a lukewarm cup of precinct coffee. "All K9s get a bit weird when their handlers are pregnant. It's the hormones, throws them off." Even her direct superior, Captain Ramirez, urged her to take a few days off, citing the emotional toll and implying that her judgment might be clouded. The well-intentioned advice, however, only deepened her isolation, making her feel misunderstood and alone in her growing conviction. Despite the skepticism, both from her peers and the medical professionals, Sarah felt an unwavering conviction that Buster was trying to save her, or perhaps even her baby. His desperate barks, the frantic pawing, the incident in the alley, none of it felt like mere protective instinct anymore. It felt like an urgent, desperate warning. This profound belief propelled her to seek a second medical opinion. This time, she didn't just walk into a clinic for a standard checkup. She made an appointment with a specialist in high-risk pregnancies at a larger hospital in a neighboring city, determined to be heard. Crucially, she was firm about mentioning Buster's unusual incessant behavior, presenting it not as a quaint anecdote, but as a critical piece of observational data. The new doctor, Dr. Eleanor Vance, listened patiently, a faint, almost imperceptible air of professional skepticism in her demeanor. She was a renowned obstetrician, known for her meticulous attention to detail but also for her pragmatic, evidence-based approach. Sarah, detailing Buster's every action, from the persistent barking at her stomach to the alley incident and the subsequent undiagnosed pain, watched Dr. Vance's face for any flicker of understanding. The doctor, though clearly humoring Sarah's almost mystical belief in animal intuition, agreed to perform a more advanced, detailed scan. "It's highly unlikely, officer," Dr. Vance stated calmly, her voice even. "But a thorough examination never hurts. We'll look at everything, just to give you peace of mind." Sarah knew it wasn't just for peace of mind. It was a desperate plea for answers. The atmosphere in the examination room was tense. Sarah lay on the table, cold gel on her swollen belly, watching the monochrome images flicker on the screen, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Buster, left in the care of Officer Miller in the waiting room, could be heard occasionally letting out a low, mournful whine. Dr. Vance moved the transducer slowly, methodically, her expression remaining neutral. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Then, her movements paused. Her eyes, which had been scanning the screen with practiced detachment, narrowed slightly. She zoomed in, adjusted the angle, and then zoomed in again on a specific area, precisely where Buster had always focused his attention. A subtle, shadowy anomaly appeared on the screen. It was small, almost imperceptible, easy to miss amongst the complex internal landscape of a pregnant abdomen. Dr. Vance leaned closer, her professional poker face beginning to crack, replaced by a flicker of intense concentration. "Well, Officer Sarah," she began, her voice now softer, laced with a hint of awe. "It seems your partner isn't just a good boy. He's a brilliant diagnostician." She pointed to the screen. "There's a very rare and aggressive internal blood clot here. It's incredibly small, almost indistinguishable from normal tissue, which is why it was missed in your previous standard checks. It's perfectly aligned with where you said Buster was focusing his attention." A cold wave of shock, followed by a surge of profound, dizzying relief, washed over Sarah. Buster had been right. He had seen what no human eye, no standard medical equipment could detect. The advanced scan, performed under the reluctant yet intrigued eye of the new doctor, had unveiled a chilling reality. It wasn't a severe ligament pain or mere pregnancy discomfort that had plagued Sarah. It was a deeply concerning, aggressive internal blood clot, meticulously hidden from conventional diagnostics. The doctors, now with a newfound urgency in their voices, explained the clot's precarious position and its potential for catastrophic consequences. This was no ordinary anomaly. It was a silent, insidious threat, capable of triggering a stroke, pulmonary embolism, or even placental abruption, placing both Sarah and her unborn child in grave peril. They stressed that its rapid development made it almost undetectable until it reached a critical mass, a point Sarah was rapidly approaching. Had Buster not been so insistent, had Sarah not pushed for this specific in-depth evaluation, the outcome could have been tragically different, a reality that sent shivers down her spine. The news reverberated through the police department like an electric shock. The initial skepticism surrounding Buster's behavior dissolved into stunned comprehension. Officer Davies, who had initially joked about Buster smelling maternity leave, now looked genuinely chastened. Officer Miller, who had seen Buster's unwavering vigil outside Sarah's hospital room, felt a surge of validation. Buster, the often misunderstood K9, was no longer just a well-trained dog. He was a bona fide hero. His extraordinary, almost supernatural senses had pierced through the veil of medical uncertainty, identifying a danger that human technology, for all its sophistication, had overlooked. He had single-handedly saved Sarah and her unborn child from a silent, deadly threat that had been lurking beneath the surface, waiting for its moment to strike. The precinct, usually a hub of boisterous activity, fell into a hushed reverence for the four-legged savior in their midst. The gravity of the situation demanded immediate action. Sarah was swiftly prepped for an emergency procedure to remove the life-threatening clot. The calm, composed demeanor of the medical team belied the palpable tension in the air. Every minute counted, and the urgency of the situation was paramount. There was no time for lengthy discussions or second opinions. The decision had been made, and the operating room awaited. Sarah, lying on the gurney, felt a wave of cold fear wash over her, but beneath it, a current of profound gratitude pulsed steadily. In the quiet moments leading up to the surgery, Sarah found herself grappling with a maelstrom of emotions. Terror, raw and primal, clawed at her, not for herself, but for the tiny life nestled within her, a life Buster had so vehemently fought to protect. Relief, sweet and overwhelming, washed over her as she realized how close she had come to an unimaginable tragedy. But most potent of all was an immense, consuming gratitude for Buster. She had always loved him, cherished him as a partner, but now her feelings transcended mere affection. It was a profound, almost spiritual connection, a testament to the unspoken language they shared. She realized with startling clarity the true depth of Buster's devotion, his unwavering intelligence, and his unparalleled ability to perceive what others could not. He wasn't just a dog. He was her guardian angel, a furry sentinel who had, against all odds, guided her away from the precipice. The bond between them, already strong, had now been forged in the crucible of near tragedy, becoming something unbreakable, eternal. She closed her eyes, clutching the small, worn photo of Buster she kept in her uniform pocket, and breathed a silent prayer of thanks. The operating room doors swung shut, sealing Sarah away from the anxious waiting area where her colleagues, the doctors, and a particularly antsy Buster paced. Hours later, which felt like an eternity to those waiting, the lead surgeon emerged, a tired but triumphant smile on his face. The procedure had been tense, fraught with delicate maneuvers given the clot's aggressive nature and its proximity to vital structures. But it was successful. The dangerously aggressive blood clot the silent predator Buster had relentlessly warned them about had been safely removed. Sarah was out of immediate danger, and crucially, her baby remained healthy and undisturbed, a testament to the surgical team's skill and Buster's timely intervention. A collective sigh of relief swept through the waiting room, audible even over Buster's excited, if still slightly anxious, whines. As soon as Sarah was stable and moved into recovery, a special request was granted. Buster, foregoing his usual strict operational protocols, was allowed into her room. The moment he saw her, his frantic barking, which had been a constant background noise in the waiting area, softened into a chorus of relieved whimpers. He nudged his head into her hand, his large, wet nose leaving a cool mark on her skin. He licked her fingers with a gentleness that belied his powerful frame, a clear sign of his immense relief and unwavering affection. Sarah, still groggy from the anesthesia, managed a weak smile, her fingers finding the familiar fur behind his ear. The bond between them, forged in peril and now cemented in survival, was palpable, a tangible force that filled the sterile hospital room. It was stronger than ever, a silent promise of loyalty and unending devotion. The story, being too remarkable to contain, inevitably leaked to the local news. Soon, Buster wasn't just a local hero. He became a national sensation. News channels across the country picked up the incredible tale of the K-9 who barked his pregnant partner out of a deadly medical crisis. The unique, often underestimated abilities of police K-9 units were highlighted, showcasing their extraordinary senses and their capacity for detection far beyond human capability. Commendations poured in for Buster, recognizing his unwavering loyalty, his uncanny intuition, and his heroic actions that had saved 2 lives. He was celebrated not just as an animal, but as a dedicated member of law enforcement, a true guardian. The precinct, once a place of skepticism, now proudly displayed framed articles and news clippings featuring their 4-legged wonder. Sarah's recovery proceeded steadily, though slowly. Each day brought renewed strength, a step further away from the precipice she had so narrowly avoided. Her baby continued to thrive within her, a tiny, vibrant testament to Buster's vigilance. During her quiet moments of recovery, Sarah found herself reflecting deeply on the whole harrowing ordeal. How close she had come to tragedy, a silent, internal threat that would have claimed her and her child had it not been for the relentless, unwavering insistence of her partner. She realized with profound clarity how often humans dismiss the subtle warnings of nature, the instinctual intelligence of animals considered lesser. Buster hadn't just detected a clot. He had communicated a desperate urgency, a plea for help that transcended species and language barriers. His actions were a living embodiment of instinct, loyalty, and an intelligence that went far beyond basic training. She understood now that he hadn't just been protecting her from external threats, but from an enemy within, an unseen danger that only he, with his extraordinary senses, could perceive. She felt an overwhelming wave of gratitude, a deep appreciation for the complex, intelligent being that was her K-9 partner, her savior. Every heartbeat, every gentle kick from her growing baby, was a reminder of the extraordinary bond she shared with Buster, a bond that had saved everything. She knew with absolute certainty that her life and her child's owed everything to that persistent, loving bark. Months later, The quiet hum of a nursery replaced the sterile silence of the operating room. Sarah, her face glowing with a peace she hadn't known in ages, cradled a tiny bundle in her arms. Her baby girl, Lily, was a picture of perfect health, a miracle born from the chaos of fear and the unwavering loyalty of a four-legged friend. Buster, no longer a frantic sentinel, sat calmly beside her, his large brown eyes fixed on the infant. His earlier frenzied barks had transformed into soft, almost imperceptible whimpers of contentment, punctuated by gentle licks to Sarah's hand. He was protective still, but now it was a calm, reassuring presence, a silent guardian watching over his precious human family. The fierce urgency that had once consumed him had given way to a profound, quiet affection, evident in every soft nudge of his head against Sarah's arm. Their journey had been an emotional crucible, forging an unbreakable bond that transcended the typical K-9 handler relationship. Lily's arrival was the triumphant crescendo to a harrowing symphony of uncertainty and fear. Sarah often found herself just watching Buster, observing his gentle nuzzles against Lily's tiny foot, marveling at the instinctual shift in his behavior. He was no longer trying to warn, but to nurture, to protect with a tenderness that brought tears to her eyes. The house, once filled with the tension of Buster's protests, now resonated with the soft gurgles of a baby and the contented sighs of a hero dog. It was a new chapter, one filled with profound gratitude and an enduring testament to the extraordinary connection between them. The small town, which had first witnessed Buster's strange outbursts, now celebrated his heroism with heartfelt reverence. A local ceremony was held, not just for the community, but for the entire K-9 unit. Buster, adorned with a specially designed Medal of Valor, sat proudly beside Sarah, his tail thumping a steady rhythm against the floor. Sarah, holding Lily, spoke with a voice brimming with emotion, sharing their incredible story once more, emphasizing the hidden wisdom that often resides in the hearts of animals. She recounted the skepticism, the fear, the ultimate vindication, and the life-saving intervention of her loyal partner. The applause was thunderous, not just for Buster's keen senses, but for the profound lesson he had taught everyone about listening to instincts, both human and animal. Officer Jensen, who had been the first to suggest Buster was detecting something deeper, stood beaming among the crowd. His quiet conviction had been a beacon when Sarah felt most alone, and now, seeing Buster receive his due, filled him with a quiet satisfaction. The story of Buster and Sarah became a legend within the law enforcement community, a powerful reminder of the irreplaceable value of K-9 partners. It redefined their understanding of animal intelligence, pushing boundaries beyond mere training and into the realm of true intuition. Buster wasn't just a police dog. He was a sentinel who had saved 2 lives through sheer, unwavering devotion. As the ceremony concluded, Sarah knelt beside Buster, stroking his head. He looked up at her, those intelligent eyes reflecting a lifetime of loyalty and love. It was a silent conversation, a reaffirmation of their unbreakable connection, forged not just in duty, but in shared peril and miraculous survival. The incident had changed Sarah forever, instilling in her a deeper respect for the subtle cues the world offered, and an unwavering belief in the unseen forces guiding their lives. It was a powerful message of hope, urging everyone to appreciate the hidden wisdom of animals and to recognize heroes in the most unexpected places. Their story, widely shared, became a beacon for others, inspiring countless conversations about the extraordinary capabilities of animals. It underscored the importance of not dismissing inexplicable behaviors especially when they come from creatures so intimately attuned to their human companions. Buster's legacy was not just about saving Sarah and Lily, but about opening hearts and minds to the profound intelligence and intuition that often goes unnoticed in the animal kingdom. He was a symbol of unwavering loyalty, a furry guardian whose actions spoke louder than any words, a true testament to the extraordinary bond between humans and animals. This tale, ultimately, was a celebration of life, of instinct, and of the silent heroes who walk among us, on two legs and on four.